You're listening to the Business Communicators.
I do want to wrap the show up with this. So it's 2023. I know it's kind of weird to make predictions in February of 2023 instead of, like December 2023. So I do want to kind of go around the horn really quickly and just, I don't know, give me one prediction of something that you think is going to happen in the comm tech space over this next year. Could be 2 predictions, 3 predictions. Thomas, since you're in the top right of my screen, I will start with you. Give us your hot take, something that is guaranteed to happen this year, and you got to get this right.
I have actually 5 of them.
Wow.
First one is I think propaganda is going to continue to grow. I don't know if it's going to reach the breaking point this year or not. Whether we see what's happening over in Ukraine and Russia with the propaganda monsters, but you're starting to see some of those thought processes, those actions starting to work its way into mainstream media in the United States, and it's a little scary, a little disheartening. So I see propaganda getting a little bit bigger, and that kind of plays into the next one, that companies are going to start taking social media a little more serious, because as we talk about the wage gaps and the earnings and the inflations and everything else like that, you're starting to see a trend of people who are getting laid off, or people who are working in toxic culture, who are turning to TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn to say, this is what's going on behind the scenes. The other one that I see is work from home. I see people starting to actually come back into the office, but I think the companies have to be very careful with how they communicate it. Is if they come out saying everybody's going to come in tomorrow, you're going to have another mass exodus. If the ones who are slowly starting to shift the corporate culture and doing it more discreet, being like, hey, we have a meeting on a Wednesday at lunch. Come on in, we'll buy you lunch. And the next thing you know, people will start to come in on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then the last thing I see, so that's 3. I'm only going to give 4. Is AI and Chat GPT. I think AI is going to make a bigger splash than we care to admit. You're starting to see people who are putting it through its paces and saying, hey, could this AI software pass a bar exam or pass my law school? And it does with a B+. You see people who are starting to write articles like, give me a story about the Houston Astros with these topics, and it writes it out there. And it doesn't write it to the same level as a seasoned professional, but it still is good. You wouldn't know it, that it was not written by a non-human. So I'm seeing those things starting to really take off. Funny ad, Ryan Reynolds did an ad where he used it. He said, give me an ad on this. And he read it, and at the very end, he's like, man, that's scary, because it was almost exactly as he would write it. And so those are my 4 biggest ones. The last one's the economy. I think that we're still in a wait and see mode with the Fed and everything like that, which affects all of us as communicators. Yeah, we're hearing layoffs in certain sectors. Yeah, we're hearing layoffs in there. Yes, we're hearing hiring freezes or hiring frost. But I still haven't gotten a good read on what the economy is going to do. And I think some of that plays into the propaganda and plays into the work from home kind of mindsets that are taking place.
Interesting, thoughtful ideas. I like those. We'll definitely revisit those toward the end of the year and see kind of where they stand. Kim, what about you?
So I don't have many predictions, but you mentioned the social media platforms, and what it looks like it's heading in a direction where they're all going to be less willing to to control the kinds of things on their platform, because they're calling it, free speech, and that's not our responsibility. I think we're going to see more of that, which for me is concerning, because I already can tell, like on certain platforms like Twitter, like I'm seeing people who I would never have seen before. Their stuff's on my timeline, and they're not people I follow or that I want to hear from. But I think that these social media platforms, I don't know so much about LinkedIn, but the others, the real social ones, I think that they're going to continue to be less self-regulated. And I don't know what that means at some point, if if Congress is going to say, hey, we've got to do something different. But that's one of the trends that I see early on. I think that's going to continue to grow. And one of the things I'm wondering about is whether I'm going to see professional teams, like other NFL teams, in terms of how they communicate. They all have their own departments, right? So they're all basically their own media departments, their own communications that they're putting out, their content. But we also know that that's very sanitized. You still need some third party input. And I'm wondering, I don't know the answer, if you're going to see teams starting to say, you know what, we might need to expand just a bit, not to bring people in house that are going to bash us, but to be more believable, we've got to get beyond just our own staff talking about our own product. That from a communication standpoint, I'm looking to see if I'm going to see that slowly happen. I don't know yet. I'm waiting on that.
That could be interesting to see.
Yeah.
You know, to have some outside voices come in there. Addie, what give us some predictions that you might have.
I don't have any predictions, but the one thing I was thinking about, you're seeing more schools, such as universities and colleges, or even places that are banning certain social media platforms, and because it's becoming more distracting versus being helpful to students in their academics. So that would be interesting if that's going to increase even more. People are, we love technology and we love how we can find out information as quickly as we can, but then there's the fact that it's being also used as a weapon, or it's used for negativity, and it's distracting, and it's really not helping from their perspective. So it'd be interesting to see where that goes from here, more so.
I'm kind of in line with you. So I've got a few predictions, kind of like Thomas did. So the first one is related to Snapchat. I think Snapchat goes bankrupt this year. Their 52-week high was $42-ish a share. Their 52-week low was $7 a share. Currently, their share price is down like 15% because of bad earnings this week. They're losing users. They're losing advertisers, and I think part of that's due to TikTok as well. I think Snapchat ultimately files for bankruptcy this year. My second prediction is TikTok is ultimately banned in the United States, and I think this is going to be a federal government decision, and I think it's only going to be exacerbated by what we saw this past Thursday with the balloon from China that was flying over Montana. It's currently over the central U.S. I mean, if you don't think China isn't using ByteDance to spy on you, you're completely misguided. I mean, I think TikTok is such an addictive app, but it's 100% Chinese spying on us. And I don't know. I mean, you have not only Republicans saying this, you have Democrats saying this as well. It's banned on government devices at the federal level. I think it's going to happen. I think one of the interesting things about that balloon, actually, the explanation from the Chinese Foreign Ministry came after the Pentagon officials said that they had detected the balloon. They said it was most certainly launched by the what did they say? They said that they were expressing their regret over the incident and saying the balloon was for civilian research and had deviated far from its planned course, but it just so happened to be over like 150 ballistic missile silos in Montana. Like, I don't think we can buy that story. There's definitely a lot of misinformation coming out of the CCP. So that's another prediction.
Propaganda.
Exactly.
Right.
I think streaming saturation is going to be a big story for this year. Obviously, the news right now with Netflix, with password sharing, I think that's only going to grow. I think other companies are going to crack down on password sharing as well. It's the same thing that you see in the airline industries when certain airlines start charging for premium economy seats or to have your seat chosen on booking. I think other streaming platforms are going to follow that model. So it's really interesting. I think people are going to start cutting back and realize which streaming platform should I go with? Should I go with Netflix, Hulu? If I can only do 3, which one am I doing? So that's something to watch. Another thing is local news, specifically here in Houston. Houston Chronicle has been the big player for many, many years. Axios launched a Houston newsletter where they sent out like a daily morning newsletter. And then earlier this week, Houston Landing announced that they were going to start, as a nonprofit covering Houston news. Interestingly enough, they said that we need to have more storytellers that cover the news, yet they hired 7 of their 9 journalists from the Houston Chronicle. So is that really solving the problem of access and information here in Houston? I'm not sure. So I think looking at local news and these startup companies coming in. I'm really curious to see what happens with this. It's not really a prediction, but just something to watch.
Yeah.
And the last prediction that I have is Meta. I think they take a quiet pivot away from the metaverse this year. I know that that's something that Mark Zuckerberg has really been focused on, but they finally had positive earnings and user growth this past week, and I think that they're going to slowly pivot away from the metaverse and maybe keep it on the back burner down the line. But I know that that was something they were all in on in 2020, 2021. I don't think that's going to be the key focus for them. I think if TikTok does fail, as I think it will get banned in the United States, that's going to benefit Facebook. That's going to benefit Google. That's going to benefit Twitter, because those ad dollars that people are spending, companies are spending on TikTok, have to go somewhere else.
I'm going to jump on Kim's statement about while the publicly facing thing is getting more and more open in Wild Wild West, the back end is getting more and more locked down. So as an ad buyer on those different things, they're making it extremely hard for people to target the proper customer or to believe and be authentic of, yes, we're advertising to this demographic and those demographics are buying. I think that Google right now is about to be thrown into a lawsuit on the lack of transparency on the ad buying and the targeting and those kind of things. I see Facebook/Meta getting rolled into there. I see all of the social media. And so I'm watching the dichotomy that's taking place in that social media space right now very closely.
You've been listening to The Business Communicators.